Good morning, folks. It's a beautiful morning. Just now getting out to the lake. It's Memorial Day, so I'd like to give thanks to all those fallen soldiers that have fought for the right of this great country so we can get out and go fishing and just live life in peace and comfort. The parking lot is completely full. The sun is up. It's hot right now. It's about 70 degrees, but the humidity level is like mid 80s. We had a bunch of rain push through, like some pretty bad thunderstorms last night, and we've got more predicted for later on this afternoon. So I'm gonna have a few hours to go out there and do some exploration. We're gonna focus on bluegill beds and shade. So we're looking for pockets off the main lake and just places where the sun has not penetrated the water. We're gonna have little shade pockets and skipping underneath overhanging trees. We got a couple inches of rain last night, so the lake is probably up just a little bit. Hopefully it's got a little bit of stain. So I got a little bit of a spot right now. I'm gonna go dump the boat in and I will see you on the water. So I got a good shade line right here. You know, the sun's right at the top of these trees. I've got just enough shade. I'm kind of going down this bank, obviously staying in the shade to try to extend a little bit of a topwater bite if there is one. I just got out here, so I don't know for sure, but I'm looking for bluegill beds. I saw some back there in that little pocket, but I kind of ran up on it. I didn't see any bass, but they won't be actually out in the open on the beds. They'll be sitting off to the side in some kind of cover. So if you see a bluegill bed and there's any kind of cover next to it, that's a good spot to target. But we're just gonna work down this bank and fish some of this grass that's above the water line. These fish will kind of just cruise down through here. We're in the spawn, a little bit of spawning going on, you know, a lot of post spawn going on. There's still some fish up shallow. A lot of pressure on the lake today. A lot of boats out. It's Memorial Day. So we're just gonna target some of this shallow stuff until the sun gets up. It's the kind of area where there could be a bass sitting here. A big lay down on an otherwise just grass bank. Kind of acting like they're not quite out on the main lake yet. So I might need to have to target some of these bluegill beds that are back in some of these pockets more. Just trying to stay away from the boats. I know there's a lot of boats back in these pockets right now. A lot of guys crappie fishing. There we go. The old black and blue swim jig. Coming through for me. It's a nice fish. Nothing wrong with that, you know. I've been trying to get this frog bite going. It's just not happening. So sometimes you got to make adjustments. Usually the day doesn't go like you planned it, unless you're really on them. And haven't been out here for a couple weeks, so it's changing fast. But it's a nice little Swim jig fish. Cool swim jig fish. Had to make an adjustment. I just can't get bit on the frog right now. It could change later. I'm gonna keep it up here. We're kind of, you know, we're late in the mid-morning and the bite kind of gets tough. So little swim jig, picked up something I got confidence, just running these spawning pockets. I did see a big bass up on there. There was another one right there. So they're in this area. It's just got to get something that they'll react to. So here we go. Looks like I gotta fish a stupid swim jig to get a bite. Fish are still up shallow, guys. You're still just kind of roaming around up shallow. I saw that fish chasing a bluegill. Ate that jig though. It's a nice healthy fish. It's a great bite. So from what I'm seeing, it's just still a shallow deal. Fish haven't quite moved offshore yet. Black and blue swim jig. Saw this fish kind of roll up on a bluegill and toss this in there. And she smoked it. It was a good bite. It was an awesome bite. It's really tough out here, guys. It's really tough. Fish are just kind of roaming around in this grass. You just got to cover a lot of water. Get a bite every once in a while. That ain't much. A little peewee. Look at that, guys. 82-degree water temps back here. That's pretty toasty. Come here, Buster. It's a heavy fish. Yeah, that's a nice fish. He's a nice boy. He's a good boy. You're a good boy. Good boy. Sitting back there in that shade. Man, this little jig has been the deal for me this spring. It's a nice fat fish. Nice fat fish. Nice fat fish. There you go, guys. It's another fat fish. This sucker's really fat. Just throwing that swim jig up in this shallow grass, just covering water, going down the bank. These fish are just kind of roaming along this grass line, and every once in a while you get one to commit. That is a really, really healthy looking fish. That's beautiful. Cool bite. Saw that fish swimming around in there. Threw that swim jig by him a couple times and he didn't even look at it. And then I guess I put it right in his face the way he wanted it. It's just up there on this. There's a bluegill bed right there. There's all kinds of bluegill up there. Decent fish. Just gotta. They want something that's falling really, really slow right now. All right, guys. It's definitely the post spawn. Fishing is tough right now. It's kind of a little bit of a transition going on. There's still fish shallow, and those are the ones that I've been targeting. Those fish are relating to bluegill beds for the most part. So let's talk about catching those shallow post-spawn fish that are key in the bluegill, on the bluegill, around the bluegill beds and stuff. First thing is covering water. If you can cover a little bit of water and find those pockets that have those bluegill beds and still get bit, that's what you want to do. Today, caught most of my fish on this. It's just a 1/4 ounce black and blue swim jig with a rage crawl. You want something that's really light because I'm fishing out to about 4 feet, maybe 5 feet. This 1/4 ounce jig does really well in that depth range. You know, if you're going to go out deeper, you need to step it up to a 3/8 or a half. But for what I'm doing today, 1/4 ounce is working fine. That rage crawl adds a lot of lift, and that's part of the reason I've been able to get bit. They want something that's falling real slow. because they're in the area. You know, you've got grass, and this lake that I'm fishing today has got grass, and they're kind of sitting underneath that grass. It's not matted up yet, but it's kind of thick. So still able to kind of finagle this little jig in through those little lanes and holes in the grass and pick up some bites. Now they're black and blue's the deal right now. In the morning, if you get out here real early, there'll probably be a little bit of a shad spawn going on, so you can go with that white, see how that works for you. Let's talk about the next way to catch those fish. And by the way, leave some comments. Let me know what your ways are. I mean, what what have you had a good experience with over the years fishing the post spawn bluegill deal that's going on? Second way, if you're fishing a lake that doesn't have a lot of grass, or you're very, very patient, you have the patience of Job, more patience than a hospital, you could throw this wacky rig. You know, the wacky rig is great. They want something that falls slow. If you're fishing on a lake that's got a lot of rock, you're going to be fine fishing this around docks, any kind of standing timber, that kind of stuff. But the wacky rig is really, really good. It just falls real slow because it mixed in with these bluegill, as you've got fry garters too. So they're kind of the same fish in the same areas and stuff. So they definitely don't like this falling down through their fry. If you're in a rock lake, this is going to work as well. The shaky head around the grass, around the rock, the docks, the bluegill beds and stuff. Shaky head is a really, really good bait. It's real finesse. I like an 1/8 ounce. It's going to fall really slow. I'm fishing that on spinning gear. 8-pound fluorocarbon, 7-foot leader, usually 15-pound braid gets it done. So this is a good one for the bedding bluegill. Another thing is this little baby brush hog. Now this is going to be Texas rig fishing with 1/8 ounce weight. And this is something you can do this time of the year, whether you're located bluegill beds or not, because these fish are still shallow. There's a lot of them shallow, but you can fish this real super slow around this grass, and you're going to pick up some bites. Another thing that's going on, it's getting ready to go on, is this frog fishing. This is real good around bluegill beds. It's kind of, I don't know, I threw it a little bit today. It didn't work for me, but that's not saying it can't work. I imagine in the morning this is really going to come in, and in the evenings you're going to get some fish on it. But the grass is kind of starting to mat up a little bit, and this is just only going to get better. A lot of times those fish are sitting just outside the bluegill beds in the cover and the, you know, and the laydowns and the grass and stuff. And you can pop this thing around the edges of that stuff and get some bites. And it's usually a bigger fish too. Talked about the wacky rig. Another way to catch those fish is just a floating worm. I'm putting this, I put a swivel on there, and I run about a 6 to 8 inch tag. Got a 4/0 hook, and this is just a zoom trick worm. There's a lot of good floating worms out there. This one works pretty good. Bubblegum's a good color. This is just a watermelon candy. It's a little more natural color. But this will work great. Skipped around stuff and just let it fall and twitch it just like a little jerkbait. Works great. Another bait is a big swim bait. Just Texas rigged. Just got a big 6/0 hook. That's a 6-inch swim bait. Sometimes they want something bigger rolling around that grass. That's something that you need to have on your deck. On your deck. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the punching. So got a 3/4 to 1 ounce weight, 4/0 straight flipping hook in a beaver, some kind of creature bait. And that's coming up pretty soon. Those same post spawn fish that are keying in on bluegill, when that grass gets matted, your frog and then your punch rig is going to come into play. So not trying to make it overcomplicated, but these are all tools that I've had success with this time of the year. And it can get really tough, so you need to have several different options to show these fish a different look. Let's get back out in the water and see if we can catch a few fish before it gets dark. Got some storms coming. It's kind of one of those days, the air temp's like 87, and these storms are just kind of popping up from the south, just little pop-up storms. So I mean, we could be fine till dark, or we could have some lightning any minute now. So got to take advantage. I ate some food, feel good, ready to go back out there and see if I can catch some more fish for you guys. There he is. It's like they're sitting back up in that shade. That's a cool bite. So I'm gonna come out and just grab it. Threw up underneath that tree, and this little guy was sitting there, and he stuffed it down. All right, guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing here. I'm just fishing bluegill beds. That's all I'm doing right now. I tried to fish offshore, and just not much out there. Caught a few fish. There's still a lot of fish shallow relating to these bluegill, and any of these little shallow pockets, same places that the bass spawn pretty much. There's bluegill beds out here. I don't know if you can see them, but you can see there's dark spots out there. Might be hard to see. If you're going down the bank though, and you'll start seeing these bluegill up. They're sitting up high in the water column. There's several of them out there, just underneath the surface. That's what I'm looking for. There's bass. Usually there's bass nearby, and just fishing that little 1/4 ounce black and blue moccasin swim jig, RIP moccasin. Hopefully he'll be back with a little rage crawl on there. And they want something that's falling real slow. You just kind of keep it up high in the water column, and that's what's getting bit for me. You can do the same thing with the wacky rig if you're if you don't have quite as much grass in your lake. The same thing. A light Texas rig will work. A floating worm will probably work. Maybe a chatterbait, maybe a frog. It just depends. But you got several options. The main thing though is just to find those bluegill beds. And so you're just covering water looking for bluegill beds. And pretty much every one that you find, you'll get a bite off of, or you'll see some bass in that area. There we go. Look at that, folks. This is Mr. Big. That old chatterbait got him. Slow rolling through the grass. Just fishing this point out here. That's a nice fish, guys. Really nice fish. Look at that. There we go. Yes, sir. Got some storms moving in. That wind really picked up, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go back through some of this stuff where I'd be throwing a swim jig, but throw a chatterbait and see if that makes a difference. And you know, since you got some wind, you don't have to be so finessey. You can throw. I was almost going to throw a spinnerbait, and I just kept this chatterbait going. So glad I did. That's a nice, solid fish. Yeah, little guy. Chatterbait fish. That fish was down there deep. There we go. Godzilla. That was a heck of a bite. The fish knocked that snot out of that thing. There's a nice fish. Boom. That was a great bite. I mean, that fish hammered it. Another nice chatterbait fish. Got some storms coming in, man. It's turned out to be an okay day. I'll show you kind of what I'm targeting here. I've been fishing really shallow and catching some fish, and I just kind of moved out deeper, caught that one big one. I'm kind of targeting these grass clumps. See some of these grass clumps? Let's see if I can pull this back a little bit. See, like these clumps? You get these little clumps that are kind of sitting out off the main grass line. And there'll be some bigger fish sitting in this kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I'm targeting. You know, they're in like 6-7 foot of water, a little bit deeper water. And then, you know, it starts getting thick there. That's just a whole wall of grass there. But those little clumps, sometimes they hold a better fish. Go punching fish. Might not be my biggest fish of the day, but I think it might be my favorite one. It's one of my favorite ways to catch these fish. Still fishing around these bluegill beds. You know, I caught them on a swim jig, caught them on a chatterbait. Couldn't get anything on a frog, kind of surprised, but I just picked up this punching rig because it got a little bit of thin mats. It's not matted up like it needs to be. It needs to be thicker and a little bit deeper, but did manage to catch this decent fish. Had a fun day out here. It's kind of tough right now. You know, it's that post-spawn kind of funk. Fish are kind of up in the grass, but they're not real aggressive. You get a little wind blowing, you might get a few bites real quick, but when it slicks off, it gets tough again. They're kind of making their way out, you know, to the deeper stuff. So just kind of a transition period, but nothing wrong with that fish at all. And I am very happy to have it, very happy to get out here on Memorial Day. So thank you guys for defending our country and making the ultimate sacrifice. Look at that, boys and girls. Slim jig in the mouth. That fish absolutely crushed it. Wow, that was an awesome bite too. Beautiful fish. Like I said earlier, please subscribe, share it on Facebook. Until next time, beautiful fish. Wow, beautiful fish.